Hello, in this video, I'm going to talk about the purpose of a literature review. So, a literature review is a systematic search of the literature to make sure that your study fills a gap and answers a question that hasn't already been asked. So, I discussed this in the previous video when I talked about how to choose a research topic. So it is one of the earliest steps in designing your research study is to conduct a literature review where you are searching through the literature that is available. So previously conducted studies, and it could include information from textbooks and other sources. And you're trying to find whether your study that you are working on developing is going to answer a question that hasn't been asked yet. But it goes a step further than that. So you're going to use the literature review to make that determination. And now let's say you're going to move forward with your study. Maybe you've tweaked your questions. You're making sure that you're filling in a gap in the literature. But the literature review does not end there. So it's important that while you are doing your literature review, that you are keeping track of all of the different articles and papers and abstracts and things that you're reading. Because when you write your research proposal or your final research paper that you might submit for publication, when you're writing your introduction and your background sections, the literature review that you did initially when you were even just picking your question is going to be really important. So you're reviewing the literature and you're going to use what you find in the literature to establish the importance of your proposed study. So let's say that now we're using the literature review to write your study proposal. And that proposal you might be submitting to your institution. Like let's say you're working on your doctorate or your master's and you're proposing this research to an advisor or someone. You would need to have a proposal to submit to the IRB, the Institutional Review Board, when you're going to do research with human subjects. You might need the proposal if you're applying for funding. So there are lots of reasons that you would write a research proposal. And so you're going to use the literature review to establish why the question that you're trying to answer is important. So why do we need to answer this question? And then background, you're going to use the literature to provide background and context for your study. So maybe your intention is to build on some work that has been done previously by other researchers. So you'd provide that background and say, here is what these other researchers found when they did their work. And here's how I want to build from there. Here's what I want to add. Here's how I want to address this other population, which is also very important. So you're using your literature review to establish how important your work is and give the background and context for why you want to do this study. You can also provide some historical context. So you can tell about what research has been done already and talk about where the gap is in the literature that you want to fill. You also can use your literature review to form a bridge between related topics. So maybe you want to study a certain area, a certain topic with a certain population. Well, if it hasn't been done before, which hopefully it hasn't, that's why you're doing this research, then you can discuss the literature about the topic and discuss the literature about the population or why you think that they need to be addressed specifically, and use the literature to form a bridge and support why this is a meaningful study that you're planning to conduct. Then you also can use the literature review to establish a benchmark. So like, let's say a similar study has already been done with a different population or in a different location, or some kind of similar but different enough study. You want to mention that study so that you have a benchmark to compare the results of your study. So maybe you get similar findings. Then if you're drawing from the literature review and saying, well, these other researchers also had similar findings, that supports the validity of your results. Or maybe it was very different, and then you can discuss and contrast how your study and your results were different from the others, and then you can discuss why that is. But in any case, the other studies that you're drawing from help give you a benchmark to compare the findings of your own study. And then finally, we can build on previous research by using other existing theories, recommendations for future research, and provide direction for the research question and hypothesis under study. So when you were choosing your research topic, you started with something you're interested in and a question that you want to answer. And then you go to the literature and see what has been asked and answered already. So discuss how you got there. You can discuss how certain studies gave you direction towards the hypothesis and the research question that you are looking to address during your study. And also, if you're having a hard time coming up with a topic and you're looking for guidance or ideas, and you're just trying to brainstorm where you could start for designing your study, a great place to start is by reading some of the literature in areas that you're interested in. And at the end of lots of articles, they end with suggestions for future research. So if you read a paper that you find very interesting, you read an article that you think is very interesting, and you like the topic and you want to build on that, but you're not sure how to proceed, well, most authors provide recommendations at the end for how can we build on this research? How can we take this a step further, and what else still needs to be studied in this area? So that's a great place to look when you're looking for ideas, and maybe you've narrowed it down to something you're interested in, but need help in determining a research question. All right, that's all I have for you in this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.